You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating talk radio. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Doctor, tell me true. What's a heart like mine supposed to do?
All right, guys, we are back at the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dahlia, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So the media business is a very dynamic one, and I love it. You know, being a physician, being both in media and being a physician, a little bit of opposites. Because with the physician part of it, it's the science, it's the evidence, the evidence base, the proof. You don't take a lot of risks. Yeah, you rely on tested and true. Whereas with media, it's like anything can happen in any minute. But fortunately for me, I was able to really kind of fight the odds in terms of media and the station. My very first station was KLAV, when a good friend of mine in radio said, you need to go on air and do this. My mom had told me for years, but when your mom tells you something, you never do it, right? Because, your mom tells you. But a handsome guy in the radio business, Mark, tells me you need to go to radio. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, that sounds like a good idea. So I started KLAV January 9th, 2009. And immediately I get picked up by KDON back on January 31st, 2009. On a Saturday. And it was a very dynamic time because I'm using the word dynamic a lot because I can't think of a better word right now, because you had Obama that was now taking office. Even though I was going to be answering health questions and, making health news, or, basically being there to answer people's questions while they were losing jobs and the recession was evolving and it was going to be big changes with healthcare. I was there to answer people's medical questions. And the first questions, people asked were, what's going on with healthcare? What's Obamacare? What's a public option? What's this? And it immediately turned to news and current events. And KDON and all the people that were there, I can't list all of them, but you had John Schaefer and Tom Hum and Lance Pry and Jim Dallas. Oh my God. And Mitch Kelly. And I'm going to forget all of them. Q, loved Q. Heidi Harris taught me a lot. Alan Stock, who worked on sister stations. Everybody jumped in to give me advice and help. And it's interesting because, in show business, there's a lot of competition. But you had all these people jump in. Corey Cutterback. I do not want to forget anybody because there were so many amazing people there. But they helped grow my show. And so my show went from infancy to puberty. And puberty's not easy for anybody, right? Because with puberty, right? Especially the movies came out. No, not literally. But with puberty, that's where XM radio took the show and other stations started. So here I start a local show and they gave me that base, that flagship to then go national. And in radio, you don't really last that long because radio is so changing and dynamic and ever evolving. And I've been at KDON for 17 years, 17 and a half years. August 31st is going to be my last day at KDON. I know. No, nobody's mad at me. Nobody's mad. No, I didn't sleep with anybody. I swear. No. I was not politically correct. What happened is there's some changes. KXNT, fantastic station, whom I never worked for. I always thought I would somehow, because people went back and forth between KDON and KXNT, but somehow I stayed their longest running show on KDON. KXNT is sundowning, and they are combining with KDON. Meanwhile, KDON has had some really exciting changes with the Dodgers. The Dodgers, and I'm a Dodger fan, we get the Dodger games. Problem is my show, I know some of you are like, Dahlia, I get to listen to your show tonight. Yeah, because the Dodgers aren't playing. I like the Dodgers playing. I've been making money on the Dodgers. I have futures for the Dodgers winning the World Series, but they play a lot. And for a weekday show that's growing, so even though KDON and the program director, Mark, is awesome. We talked about some options. it made sense for me to, move to a new station. This new station is awesome. And the guys there that are putting it together are absolute heroes. The announcement was going to come today, but there's some fine tuning that's being done all across the board. So once I get the thumbs up to yes, go ahead. It was going to be a big announcement today. Give us a little bit more time. I used ChatGTP for some artwork, and ChatGTP again gave me big boobs, so I can't use that one. They also made me brunette. Why does ChatGTP keep making me brunette? Well, because they probably know that I'm a fake blonde, and that really kind of drives me crazy because we don't need accuracy with ChatGTP. Just I give you the image, just make the artwork. You don't have to go in and bring up ex-boyfriends. Just okay, we aren't looking at a history lesson. Just okay, if I have blonde in my hair, make me blonde. So I'm very, very confused about that. And give me a small waistline. I have to add that in there. Not that that's really important in radio. So we're working on that. But it's interesting because when people leave radio or their station, oftentimes it's not good. Oftentimes something went wrong, and it's like all I have is love and esteem because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for everybody at KDAWN. And then KDAWN switched to KDAWN, KDAWN, and they're still thriving and they're still doing great. But with sports, Las Vegas is becoming a sports mecca, right? All right, we got, NBA coming. We already have a WNBA team that is kicking ass, the Aces. We got hockey. We got Raiders, we got, we have also a big LA fan base. And so, the Dodgers, while we're waiting for our Oakland A's or the Athletics, and the stadium to be built, there's, a lot of still love for Dodgers, and I don't blame them. So, radio is embracing sports a lot more. And the funny thing is I actually like listening to sports on radio because I like the it makes me think like it's back in the 1940s and listen to the Yankees, and so I listen to a lot of sports on radio. So radio station wants to provide talk, they want to provide music, they want to provide sports, and so it's a challenge. And these guys are great, and so it's going to be August 31st is going to be my last day at KDAWN, and then the new station starts on September 1st. Really, really excited. Love to everybody. And but don't worry, I'm not going away. You'll still always find me. Yeah, I know some of you are disappointed. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So when I lived in Reno for a couple of years, wildfire risks were imminent. And I remember waking up, sky being black from smoke, whether there was a fire in Verdi or a fire near Truckee or Northern California and Northern Nevada can get pretty dry. We're in wildfire season, and it was a risk. In fact, my biochem teacher, Dr. Dryling, was housing a family that had to evacuate, and they were living with him, while they were, figured out the trials and tribulations of getting their home rebuilt and it was, and that was a neighbor that was able to at least live, with somebody. And I obviously offered my apartment for anybody who needed it, but luckily nobody didn't. But unfortunately, with wildfire season, it's, we're in the thick of it. And Reno now has the Hawk Fire. 15,000 acres have burned, and according to Reno Gazette-Journal, the fire was listed as 0% contained as of 5:30 a.m. today. There are evacuation orders that have now expanded across Northwest Reno and the North Valley. 90,000 residents live right now within the mandatory evacuation and evacuation warning zones. Here's somebody's account of evacuating.
We packed our bags and sort of waited it out, and we just hiked up to the top of the hill here, and it's burning pretty good. It's really windy up there, so which is a little bit scary.
All schools within Washoe County School District have been closed, with the exception of Gerlach K through 12. Truckee Meadows College had to cancel in-person and online classes. University of Nevada, Reno, where I went for medical school, and then I did my last year at UCLA, but most of my training was at UNR. Still going to proceed as scheduled. They're a little bit more in the inner city and a little bit more in a valley from where this is, but it's obviously very, very concerning. We've had already multiple injuries. The wildfire is out of control. The shifting winds are challenging firefighters. And here is what some of the first responders are saying.
Please allow our firefighters and our first responders the ability to do their jobs and take the evacuation order seriously.
Interestingly, the AP News is reporting that the fire was, quote, human caused. Now, we have monsoon season. You have wildfire. The reason why this is always wildfire season is you got the drought, and then you end up having lightning. During a monsoon thunderstorm, lightning could cause fire, etc. Or, winds are really, really rough this time of year. Somebody's campfire causes some, blow by, or so things can happen. We don't need, on top of this, disgusting humans who think that causing a fire is fun to be doing this kind of stuff. At least 6 people, 3 first responders and 3 civilians have been injured. Now, we don't know yet why they think it's human caused, whether it was intentionally set or accidental. All right, I mean, a lot of camping this time of year could be accidental from a human, but the Hawk Fire began Saturday, grew to more than 23 square miles as it spread Sunday across the Peavine Peak area of the Humboldt Toyabe National Forest. These are rugged foothills that are near the California state line. Zero containment, as I said, as of today. 42,000 residents have been ordered as the go now zone expanded with high winds. Not good. 45,000 people in the adjacent evacuation warning zone. Authorities are urging people to be prepared to stay away from several days because shifting and strengthening winds were expected to make the fire even more predictable. Washoe County Sheriff Darren Balam says, please get out if you can right now. Extreme fire behavior suggests gusts, flames, dry brush, not good. They said over the next 12 hours, the fire is expected to continue to make moderate to high intensity runs in pockets of dense fuels. I had a home fire as a kid, and I tell you guys about that. Having your home burned down and you watching it happen, and you being in the house when it happens. It was deemed to be from an electrical, poor electrical wire lamp that caught on. My grandmother was living with us, that caught on to her bags of. She would order clothes from like Lane Bryant, and they were all in bags and plastic, and that the plastic, it was next to this lamp, and the fire ended up causing that. And I remember going into her room and making sure our animals were out and things like that. And the smoke, I mean, it just went right to the ceiling. You just saw the speed at which the gusts of smoke was. You saw the fire, and my father grabs me. I'm barefoot. At least I had some pajamas on. Pulls me out, and we basically lived in motels until we could figure out how to like get back into an apartment or home. I know the school wanted to do like a clothing drive. We were like, no, we got this. It's okay. Really, really good community support. But it's just to lose your home. It's not lose that lost everything. I didn't have money, and my clothes were supermarket clothes. But I was able to put some money together for a really nice pair of designer jeans. And I remember being devastated that my one cool piece of clothing was getting burned, and my Michael Jackson posters that were up in the wall. This happened in the 80s. It's absolutely devastating, just devastating. We talk about the health risks of wildfire smoke. I live in the desert. I live in Southern Nevada. Love living in Southern Nevada. I've been here off and on since the 80s. And, yes, there's heat, and, we might not, be able to, get the snow for Christmas. Sometimes we get some snow. But I got to tell you, having lived in areas where wildfires hit, it's always a threat. It's always with hurricanes, we get some warning that hurricanes are coming. With wildfires, not a lot of warning. And we saw that with the Pacific Palisades. People just driving down the road going, I need to evacuate now. There's no warning. And when you live in an area, like I did, I was told, look, there's a wildfire, so make sure you have a grab and go bag. Because when you're told to evacuate, you need to leave. And sorry, that just has to happen. And so I already had like a grab and go bag, but a lot of people don't. And I think we all should, as an exercise, all right, yes, I'm giving you homework. Stop it. I haven't given you guys a pop quiz in years. You guys forget, I used to do pop quizzes. You guys want a pop quiz? Then quiet down. But, have a grab and go bag that has your, and I know the reason why many of us don't is because we have our important papers and Social Security cards and birth certificates. We have those in like a safe. And so you're like, and then have a safe small enough that could be your grab and go. Grab it, put it in your bag, your clothes, medicine, things like that. Always with your medicines, have, a bottle extra that you could have at least, a few weeks. Make sure you have your medicines with you. Make sure you have instructions, all your family stuff. Have, your chargers, a battery, a regular radio in case your cell phone doesn't work. Because in horrible, horrific weather conditions, you're not going to have a cell phone. But these are things you need to think about. The EPA, the CDC, a lot of different resources on what you should do to prepare. The air, for those of you that are living in Northern California, Northern Nevada, or who just dealt with all the Canadian fires, you don't want that carbon monoxide breathing in if you have respiratory issues, carbon dioxide, wood particles, formaldehyde, acrolein, benzene, plastics. These are things that are huge respiratory irritants. And, the EPA says, this smoke has carbon dioxide, water vapor, carbon monoxide, which competes with oxygen, particulate matter, hydrocarbons, organic chemicals, nitrogen oxides, trace minerals, several thousand other compounds. So you might start coughing, wheezing, difficulty breathing, chest pain, mucus production, dizziness, lightheadedness. You could get tired. You could get a racing heart or palpitations. Exacerbation of your lung disease, whether it's asthma, chronic bronchitis, COPD. And if you have a heart condition, you don't want to have bad air. Bad air could affect your heart, cause angina, arrhythmias, things like that. Plus, it could put you at risk for new lung infections. They actually studied Reno back during the COVID pandemic, and they found that because of wildfires, there was a 17.7% rise in COVID in Reno. Not because there's anything wrong with Reno. I love Reno. I could live there again in a heartbeat. But because there were wildfires at the time, and they found an increase in the PM 2.5 concentration. Get good masks that protect the PM 2.5s, the little 2.5 micrometer in diameter, things that could get into the lungs. Make sure you got good air filters and get out of Dodge if you can. Be safe. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for a gift that can actually help secure someone's future? It's Mark Falter's new book, Common Sense Income Strategies. It makes the perfect gift for that special someone in your life. Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using time-tested strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. To learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Secure your future with Common Sense Income Strategies by Mark Falter. Again, to learn how to receive your free copy, call 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635.
All right. We are back on Dr. Dolly Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So, U.S. and Canada, I kind of added again. And the Canadian benefits that they get from the U.S., it's a lot. And President Trump claimed that Canada wants to continue receiving the benefits of being a state, quote, without being one. Trump says Canada wants the benefits of being a state without being one. They have also charged our great farmers for many years massive amounts of tariffs. No more. Now, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney said his country is going to implement retaliatory tariffs on the U.S. starting on September 8th as a response to Trump's administration adding 50% tariffs, which have now gone into effect. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy has some words on the subject.
We're great trading partners, right? But Canada gets the benefit of trading with the U.S. way more than the U.S. gets the benefit of trading with Canada. It's a country that doesn't have a military. It has a country that has a single-payer healthcare system that's failing. They have record-high euthanasia rates. And so to think that they're going to go to war with Donald Trump and actually win that war with the U.S., I think it's foolish on their part. And again, I think what the president's trying to do with Jamieson Greer, who, by the way, has done an amazing job representing the president and America, is we want fairness for the American worker. And some of our best friends are the worst offenders that treat us the worst. And the fact that we provide their security for them and they take advantage of us, I think President Trump was the first one to go, you know what, that's not the kind of relationship that friends should have. And so the president's calling them out. I think you're going to see Mark Carney come to the table very, very quickly because it's going to be devastating for his country.
You know, they bring up an interesting point. I mean, a lot of people have been asking, why are we even talking about Canada becoming a 51st state? Canada will never want to become a 51st state. But one thing that Trump has done, and very effectively, is rooted out and displayed to us some of the ridiculous relationships we have, especially when America keeps getting screwed over. There was a very interesting poster he had posted last when he had spoken about the tariffs, going, will you look at what we pay, what these other countries charge us, and they're taking advantage. And when he brought up reciprocal tariffs, I know the left had an absolute, fit, and he said, I'm not even doing 80%. I'm not even doing the match for match when somebody's charging us 80% or 50%. We are going to do reciprocal tariffs, but it's still less than what they're doing to us. And I really didn't see how he was wrong in that. Now, I understand you start to mess with the status quo. People don't like change. They don't want people being grumpy. We're not going to go to war with Canada. We are the ones that actually protect Canada through our NORAD, North American Aerospace Defense Command. Canada relies on us to protect them. And nobody will go after Canada because of North America and our Aerospace Defense Command. We're there to protect them. Because anything happens to Canada can happen to us. So we're, in essence, they actually do benefit from us being there militarily wise. We have to protect Canada. That could change depending on how this goes. But for now, it's still in our best interest to be a part of NORAD. But if Canada doesn't really have their own way to defend themselves, strong military, their healthcare system is struggling extremely, which is why I can't tell you how many Canadian patients I took care of because they couldn't get care through their NHS or through their socialized system. In terms of their oil, gas, vehicles, and lumber, we buy hundreds of billions of dollars of their supplies. Remember, their socialized system doesn't work. Everybody says, oh, it works out great. Well, it only works because they're relying on U.S. capitalism. They need our money. And so when people say, gosh, I don't know why Canada doesn't tell Trump to go blink and they can't. They need America. And so them doing retaliatory tariffs, they might be able to, with a few things, like, appliances, paper, electronics. We don't need to buy our electronics from Canada. I like buying made in Canada. I like Canada a lot. I've been there multiple times. It's a beautiful country. And when I see something made in Canada, I like to support Canada. But we don't have to buy our stuff from Canada. So they add to the tariffs. They increase their tariffs. It's not going to really do much. And Canada has to say face. They have very, very liberal very liberal leadership right now. And so they need to look like, but Trump is eliciting something and making known to the world, how Canada really relies on America. And Canada now is in kind of a difficult position because if they admit the truth, they look very weak. But they got lazy. Now they were like, look, we're benefiting from this. They didn't think that Trump was going to come in second administration and say, all right, we're calling it. That we're done being taken advantage of. So they could say, well, we're going to tariff you, and they're going to try to play the cards they have, but they're going to lose. Now, that doesn't mean they have to become a state, but they tick Trump off enough. Does he really need to continue, all the funding and all the support for them? Now, people say, well, why would Trump want Canada to become a state that'd be Democrat? And that would give 2 more Democrat senators. But what's interesting about Trump is, remember, his legacy is very important. It really upset him that people tried to erase all the stuff he did. Barely anybody talked about the Abraham Accords and what he did for the economy in the first 4 years. It was history got very twisted when Biden came to power. And so, or the powers that be that ran the Biden administration. I can't blame Biden. I think, I wish Biden well as he goes through his stage 4 metastatic prostate cancer, but he didn't even have doctors, doing what they were supposed to do for him. I don't know who the hell ran that presidency. But Trump wants to make sure that nobody forgets, right, all the good he did. Getting the hostages out of Gaza, what he did with in terms of decreasing fraud, waste, and abuse, improving the economy, bringing more money in, stopping us getting screwed, especially when it comes to pharmaceuticals, getting our pharmaceutical prices down. He worries that nobody's going to be bringing this up. So what can you make permanent? A Trump account's going to last a few decades. So he did the Trump accounts, which I think are also very, very good move. Making a state, even if that state can end up being a Democratic state, that's pretty permanent. Of course, Congress has to approve it. And so I don't think it's going to happen in this presidency. But, and again, I'm not necessarily advocating for that at all. But if Canada is really benefiting as a state does, starts to kind of beg the question, shouldn't we get the benefits out of Canada being part of America? 1-877 Dr. Dolly, don't go away. Dr. Dahlia here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive this stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
And we're back on the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. These celebrity deaths are always shocking. These people are young. They appear healthy, in good shape, right? Have gobs of money, where hopefully they have the best doctors, they have the best access to healthcare. Many of them are in California, where you have a lot more hospitals and medical centers per capita than in other areas. And when you hear that these people pass in their homes, and it's sad. So Hayden Panettiere, how about I pronounce it right? Panettiere. Well known for her acting and singing and years. I think she was a child actress as well. Apparently had been struggling, allegedly, with substance abuse, and they found Narcan at the scene when she passed. And they're investigating her off again, on again, relationships, and there's from what I even think the DOJ is also involved, and so there's a big ongoing investigation. But we got a few more details from TMZ, which I'll kind of share with you that I want to talk about. And it's heartbreaking. And usually when it comes to celebrities, like, what happened with Gene Hackman and his wife, we want to give, the privacy that is due. Now, we don't want to, give detail. We want people to be remembered, positively. And, but on the other end, with celebrities being so public, there's teaching points. And if we could save lives, if we could actually save lives, then their death wasn't in vain. And, it's one of those things where we want to respect the privacy, but whatever has been made public, let's see what we could use to ensure that this doesn't happen to somebody else, especially your loved ones. So TMZ is reporting, all right, and TMZ has been actually doing some pretty good jobs with their getting sometimes some of the latest news as it pertains to this. Hayden had a boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and allegedly he gave her Narcan after he and his brother Zach found her unconscious the day she died. Zach tells TMZ that his brother gave her Narcan. As you know, Narcan is it helps if somebody, let's say, has a narcotic overdose. It helps compete for the mu receptors there, where the drug causes respiratory depression. And when the mu receptor grabs that drug, if you could displace the drug with something that won't cause respiratory depression, you could save a life. Narcan is given intranasally, spray. We also have other ways to give the competing medication. But at home now we have Narcan. Interestingly, that they had some. I'm glad they had some, but it kind of suggests that it was a concern. So they wanted to make sure they had Narcan. Apparently, I think this was an Airbnb. So Hayden and her boyfriend Brian had traveled to South Carolina the day before. We saw pictures, her last picture. She seemed happy, partying, loving life. So they either traveled with the Narcan or brought some in South Carolina shortly before arriving. But it suggests, according to TMZ, that they knew they needed to have that because one of them might have been struggling with substance abuse. Zach said he went to their Greenville Airbnb when he didn't hear from them. He knocked, woke Brian up from a nap. And then the brothers went over to check on Hayden. Hayden was apparently unconscious at the time. Zach calls 911. Brian gives her Narcan to try to reverse a potential opioid overdose. Not saying that's what happened, but they administered that, which, by the way, you'll notice the 911 operator will suggest it when you come upon somebody who's unconscious. And you're like, well, how do I know it's narcotics? Why would I give this? If the 911 operator tells you to do it, follow that. All right. Oftentimes in emergency settings, we give it anyway if we don't know. It's not going to hurt. From a medical professional, let us decide. But if somebody is unconscious and we're suspecting it, it's better to give it than not. And so I'm glad they did that. In a statement to TMZ, Zach, again, the brother of the supposed boyfriend, says there are a lot of assumptions, speculations, and accusations currently swirling. The truth will come out as the authorities complete and release additional details from the investigation. And that is important because the people who loved and adored Hayden deserve the truth. He continued, at this time, I want to clarify my involvement in effort to keep the focus on the fact that we lost one of the most precious individuals on this earth and to allow those that cared about her to mourn without additional noise, chaos, and misinformation being created and propagated by the media as well as the public. I get that. So on Sunday morning, woke up. Zach said he woke up, went to the Airbnb, got dressed, went to church, exchanged messages that morning with Brian that he's on his way. They were supposed to all go to lunch and then play indoor golf. When I left church, I called and texted both of them. When I didn't reach Brian or Hayden, I just assumed maybe they fell back asleep. So I drove over, went to the Airbnb. When I got there, I knew the code to the building, but not the door code to the Airbnb. So then he gets in. They find Hayden. Oh, he says, I knocked loudly, which apparently woke Brian up, TMZ said, from a nap. They were both taking on the pull-out couch bed in the living room. When we went in and tried to wake Hayden up for lunch, they realized she was unconscious. So he calls 911. Brian gives her Narcan. They jointly performed CPR while 911 was on the speaker until fire and EMS arrived. At the point, they watch as they tried every measure possible to save her life. They are heartbroken. They are just in shock. But what can we learn from this? One thing that I always tell my patients is don't get sick alone. Don't have your cardiac event alone. Don't have your stroke alone. Don't have your overdose alone. Be around others. And unfortunately, her boyfriend was asleep. So when she did, if she did overdose, again, we don't know, but when she slipped into unconsciousness and possibly died, there's no one's around to help you. Was it Prince who was found in an elevator in his house? If he was around others, sadly, and when this happens, you can't plan it. There were people in the house that could have saved him, could have given him Narcan. If this was an overdose, one dose of Narcan might not cut it. So in the ER setting, oftentimes we need to do multiple. All right, and we need to watch it. We also, depending on how much mu receptor inundation there is and saturation there is, sometimes you might come out of a consciousness, but because there's so much circulating medicine and based on the half-life, it takes over again. And the Narcan can only do so much. So sometimes you have to give repeated doses. You got to watch them. If you do give somebody Narcan, don't leave them at home. They got to go to the ER. They have to be watched because they could, again, submerge into that. And then, of course, the question is was she already dead? Is that why the Narcan didn't work? Fortunately, you can get Narcan now without a doctor prescription. I believe there's 2 dosings in each box because they know that one might not do the trick. If you do have a friend or a loved one that does, struggle with substance abuse, please, for the love of God, get them help. And then, people at first was like, well, was it a suicide? Didn't appear it. She had plans that day, fun the night before. And again, this might not have even been, drug related. It could have been, cardiac related. It could have, when you lose somebody you love and care about, for those of us who have, it just blows your mind at how delicate the human body is. And once they're gone, they're gone. So for those of you that like to party it up, or you think your prescription medications are good because it was a prescription your doctor gave you, you never know how vulnerable your body is. Make sure you have Narcan around. Make sure you don't ever be alone. Make sure you're always around other people. And please talk to your medical provider if you feel like you're struggling. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.